Oh boy, FMC New Zealand 2025. A full year since I last competed. A lot has happened. I graduated high school and got addicted to this game called Repo. Okay, that's completely irrelevant and probably isn't why you clicked this video. FMC, or Fewest Moves Challenge, is an official WCA event where you're given a scramble and 1 hour to write down the lowest move solution you can find. For context, I use NIS, Normal Inverse Scramble Switch. Lets you switch between the scramble and its inverse at any point during your solve to increase your chance of finding something good. If that doesn't make sense, a tutorial would probably explain that better, but you can also just follow along to see how my solve went. On solve 1, I got really lucky. At home, I averaged around 35 moves, so finding a 24 move solution was completely unexpected. This single solve temporarily placed me at 3rd place, ahead of some really good people who were miles better than me and used more fancy and optimal methods. The luck didn't carry over though. On solve 2 and solve 3, I ended up getting a 37 and a 36, which weren't anything good. Even with those, the mean was still a 32.33, which is a solid improvement over my previous PR of 35 moves. Anyways, that's probably enough waffling. The scramble is on the top of the screen and I began my solution on the normal scramble. On the normal scramble, I saw that U prime, F prime, makes this 1x2x2 block, and then by doing L prime, I was able to make this pseudo 2x2x2. For NIS, if an entire layer is off by 1 move, we call it a pseudo block. The block can be properly solved on the opposite scramble of the one you built the pseudo block on. At this stage, I also went to check if the inverse scramble had a better block, which there wasn't. So I committed to the pseudo block I just built and switched to the inverse scramble to solve the pseudo block. Here on the inverse scramble, as you can see, the pseudo block we just made can be solved with one L move. Afterwards, I saw that I can make another 1x2x2 with R, U prime, connecting this pair with this edge, and then with R prime, I was able to make this pseudo 2x2x3 block. Same as before, the pseudo 2x2x3 block can be solved on the opposite scramble of this scramble, which is the normal scramble. So I will switch back to the normal scramble to solve this 2x2x3 block. And on the normal scramble, the pseudo 2x2x3 block can be solved with R. So far, the solve is pretty standard with some decent luck. Here's when I realized that the solve might be really good. If you look at this side, with D, B2, the entirety of F2L-1 is solved. I have reached F2L-1 in 10 moves. Normally for me to reach this stage, it takes me at least 16 moves, and 10 moves is absolutely insane. The next step of the solve would be to solve the cube into a state such that only a few pieces are unsolved, and that is called a skeleton. I tried a few different ways of making skeleton here, including just solving the F2L piece. I tried a lot of different ways on this normal scramble and didn't find anything good, so I switched back to the inverse scramble. On the inverse scramble, I also tried a bunch of different solutions, and I found this one solution in particular, which is by first orientating the edges with D prime, sledgehammer, and then I did a rotation, which I didn't write down, I just did it in my head, and then I inserted this piece, and now the edges are orientated. To solve the skeleton, I just have to insert this blue-orange edge piece while making sure that all other edge pieces are solved correctly to each other. And I would have a 5C skeleton, meaning that the cube is solved except for 5 corner pieces. Wait, when I start doing that, why is there a huge block being made? Wait, there are only 1, 2, 3 corner pieces that are unsolved, and the rest of the cube is solved. These 2 pieces just got solved by pure luck. I just found a 3C skeleton in 22 moves. For reference, the worst 5C skeleton would normally take me 24 moves to find, and stumbling upon a 3C skeleton at such a low move count really shows how lucky I got. By writing down the moves I did on the normal scramble and the inverse of the moves I did on the inverse scramble, I have a skeleton. By applying the skeleton to the scramble that we received, we can see how the corner pieces need to be cycled for them to be solved. In a competition, you're allowed to use these stickers to label the pieces you want to cycle. So I labeled this piece as 1, and this piece wants to go to 2, and this piece wants to go to 3. After this has been done, the next section of the solve is called Insertion. In this step, we use efficient commutators to cycle through 3 pieces, which normally takes 8 moves, but By going through the skeleton, you can find a move that cancel with the commutator, and depending on your luck, you might not be able to find a cancellation, or you might be able to cancel a lot of moves. With these insertion stickers telling me how the pieces must be cycled, I began searching for commutators that lead to cancellation of as many moves as possible. At this stage, I looked at my stopwatch and saw that I only used around 13 minutes, meaning that I had all the time I would need for an optimal insertion. Turns out I didn't need that much time. By going through the skeleton, after the moves D', L', I realized that the inverse of this sequence, L, D, is the start of this commutator. This cancels 4 moves at the beginning, but wait, there's more to come. The commutator ends with a D', which cancels with the next move of the skeleton. I have cancelled 6 out of the 8 moves of the commutator, meaning I solved these 3 pieces with only 2 moves. Putting this into perspective, it is considered lucky when more than 3 moves are cancelled for any given insertion, and having a findable and obvious 6-move insertion is just on a whole other level. I was just shaking at this point because, I found a 24-move solution, and I don't think I averaged sub 35. I checked my solution like 6 times over like the next 5 minutes to make sure it's actually correct. And then like after I left the room, I was like jumping up and down, which probably wasn't a good idea because like everyone probably felt the floor was shaking. As I said before, the first solve was really lucky and put me in 3rd place, meaning that I just needed some above average solutions for me to secure a good mean. Yeah, that didn't happen. I got a 37 and a 36. I was still really happy overall because I got an insane single for what I'm capable of. And I also want to shout out Numair. And yeah, he has been practicing FMC and playing frisbee golf with me leading up to the competition. He was averaging low 40s and couldn't even do insertions last week. And he ended up getting 29, 23, about 10 moves under his average. He took 1st place in Christchurch and 5th overall, and I came 2nd in Christchurch and 6th overall. We were all pretty happy at the end and walked away with the results we wanted.